Hello, I'm Edwin Grosvenor, the editor of Invention and Technology magazine, and we've been telling great stories of innovation in the history of engineering for 30 years and are delighted with the increase in the last few years in STEM education programs, so many across the country. But there's one initiative that's really been literally sweeping the country, 18 new cities and taking it on to this today, and it's called STEM Ecosystems, and we wanted to learn a little bit more about this initiative, and so we're delighted to be talking with Gerald Solomon, the executive director of the Samueli Foundation and one of the founders of the STEM Ecosystem. Would you call it a movement? Or?
We call it a movement, we call it an initiative, but whatever terms you want on it, but it's something that we think obviously is catching on because there's a need, and we're fulfilling a need that people have wanted for a long, long time.
So before we jump into this, what was some of the research, or what's the impetus for doing this?
So I'll try to keep a long story short. My boss, Henry Samueli, is a founder of a company called Broadcom. When he made his wealth, he said, I need to make sure Broadcom continues, so we have to figure out how do we get the best students to become engineers to work for Broadcom. After I did some research working with him, I said to him, you and all the other companies are fighting over this little sliver. I said, we have to expand the pipeline. The way we expand the pipeline is to go down the educational system, look elsewhere, and figure out how can we get more girls and women, more people of minority status, and other people to become involved in and engaged in STEM education. And that's when we began to look at research to the national academies, and then one thing led to another.
And so you organized like a network of funders. That's so intriguing to me.
Yeah. So
'cause it's not usually it's people who have a program and then they go to seek funders. I'm a funder. You're a funder,
right?
And so you've worked with
so it's
25 other funders now.
27.
Wow, that's great.
So it's actually an interesting story. We were at Grant Funders for Education, a group of funders, and we kept on submitting proposals on STEM education, and we kept on getting rejected. And I said to some of my colleagues, don't you think STEM's important? Yeah. So I said, well, let's figure out how do we elevate the conversation. So a group of us got together. We hired someone named Jan Morrison at Ties, and we said, let's do some research and figure out, is there a need to have this own collaboration of people who have a primary focus on STEM education? And lo and behold, over a period of 6+ years, we went from 3 of us to now 27 funders, big, small, corporate, not, family foundation, community, et cetera, who have a primary focus around STEM education at all different points. Early learning, higher ed, workforce, whatever it may be, but it's around STEM.
So what exactly is a STEM ecosystem? I mean, there's so many STEM programs. How does this differ?
First of all, we're not a program. We are completely agnostic to programs. We are about architecture and systems. We build different platforms. We take early learning up the continuum all the way to workforce. We take in school and out of school. We take the voice of business and the voice of parents. We put them together to create a new way in which they think about STEM learning. So we basically say there are great little nuggets in all these different platforms, but they all have challenges. How do we forget about trying to fix the challenges, because that's really hard to do. How do we take the best of everything, put it together, and recreate a new way of learning? So the ecosystem is about this continuum of learning, bringing in all the stakeholders so it's holistic, and it's about how do you get kids STEM educated, how do you make sure that the system has the resources to teach it, and then how do you make sure that it meets the needs of a robust workforce so the individual and the community can thrive.
So you're bringing together the schools, colleges, funders, all these different parties within a community. So you're getting the community to get together.
It could be as small as a zip code, a neighborhood, or it could be a state. It's up to each community to determine what it wants to start with and become. And we go in and we facilitate through design thinking, through engineering design principles, a way to facilitate a conversation so that they choose what they want, how they want it, from governance to programming, whatever. We are agnostic to program. We want to build a new way for them to communicate, build relationships, and implement their vision.
Because in any given community, the needs are so different. Because
Absolutely.
it depends, if Dow Chemical is your biggest employer in your region, or Monsanto, or whatever,
Right.
they need engineers of a certain type, and very often the schools aren't. They're just teaching pure physics, pure chemistry, maybe not applied.
Right.
They're not getting the skills necessarily needed for the employers in the community.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. Every community is different. Tulsa, I'll just choose one for example. You would think that they're an oil and gas community. They have the largest repair facility for airplanes and aircraft in the United States. So advanced manufacturing is a huge issue for them.
Right.
They, through the facilitation that our people helped create for them, they created a program that now exposes hundreds of thousands of people a year, parents and kids, to what advanced manufacturing in the aircraft industry could look like, how you can earn a good living at it, and be a productive citizen.
Now, one of the groups that you initiated or announced, you made an announcement just today that you've added, 18 new?
17 today.
17.
We're now up to 54 communities in the United States.
So how does Baton Rouge learn from existing communities like Orange County, for example?
That's a great question, and that's at the heart of the work. We're creating what we call a community of practice. And there's great evidence and research that says if you bring like-minded people together who have a passion around a common interest, they will begin to share, and out of that will percolate up topics of interest. I like this, let's talk about it. I do this, well, I thought about doing it, or I didn't think about doing it. Can you share with me what it is? If you might have seen the panel that I had today, the fellow from the Great Lakes region literally reached over to Cincinnati, took one of the things that Cincinnati created, put it in their pocket and said, now this is how a community of practice works. I am taking it with me and I'm bringing it back to my community. That's what we do.
Yeah, always copy a good idea.
Absolutely. Why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
There's so many good nuggets and so many good things that are out there. Take advantage of them.
So, is it competitive to get in? When you first started, tell me how you got started. So
when we put it all together, first of all, we built some beta models. We started it in Orange County, Tulsa, and Boston. And then we decided to launch it. We launched it at Clinton Global in 2015.
So the Clinton Foundation was a supporter, or
yes, they were a supporter, not in money, but in giving us the platform and the opportunity. We launched it there, and we put out an RFP to the world.
Right.
And we thought we'd get 15, 20 communities. We had 187 that wanted to apply.
Wow.
And we literally kind of freaked out.
Yeah, because you didn't have the resources.
We had no resources to be able to do that. So we made the application process much more onerous. We ended up getting 56 that applied, and we chose 27. Excuse me, we had 89 that applied and we chose 27. Right. We had 56 that applied the second year, we chose 10. We had 54 that applied this year and we chose 17. And our goal is to get over 100 so we can get to a point where we think is critical mass, so that as these communities begin to get together and learn from each other, we can step back and they can manage their own work groups and their own conversations over time.
So I was interested today, a guy with environmental concerns asked you if you were encouraging your communities to do more green programs, and you said no. And well, I thought that was very interesting distinction. So tell.
Yeah. So I didn't
explain to you. You didn't say no, but you said that's not what we do.
Right. We don't do program. If the community says and selects that topic for what they want to do, we'll help them do it. But who are we to say to a community, you need to focus on the Hispanic community, you need to focus on environment, you need to focus on higher ed, you need to focus on advanced manufacturing? They know better than we do. So let's help them think through the process. We have great faith in communities and people for them, with proper facilitation, to get to the point where they know what they want for themselves. And we try to help them get there.
So how do you know when they've gotten there? Do you have ROI? I know because a lot of the funding organizations are obsessed with ROI. They want to know that their money's
That's a hard
working.
question. So we've divided up our evaluation and assessment work into two pieces. One is the formative and one is the program or impact work. Seeing that we're still only 3 years new, the formative assessment is what we're working on. In other words, do we have the right people, the right hypotheses, the right criteria to put the right people together to where we can break down barriers, build trust, and actually open communication and begin to do the work. And we got a grant from Carnegie Foundation. We've gotten a contract with the people at Pear at Harvard for their work, University of San Diego, and everything clearly shows that the formative approach that we're taking is spot on. Now we're starting to have the conversation of, okay, so once you put it all together and they start layering programs, how do you then longitudinally study a fifth grader who's taking these programs and doing this? What does he or she do in sixth grade, and then eighth grade, and then graduate high school? Those are long-term longitudinal projects. And again, you know, it's not for us to be able to assess. We have great anecdotal information, but we encourage them then to go ahead and work amongst themselves and let them figure out the criteria that they want to evaluate and what they want to assess, because they're the ones ultimately to sustain themselves that have to go to their local communities to get the resources to do it.
So what are some of the, do you have a particular accomplishment or anything that you're particularly proud of? Or just are they all your children and you can't pick them?
Yeah, you know, so that's a great statement. I should remember that. There are lots of things. I'll highlight some for you. We have developed a program in one of these communities where the high school has begun to work with the community college that has an MOU with the university, that if you go through these classes and get a certain grade point level, you will get into this community college, which is open anyways, but if you go ahead and do that and you maintain that grade point level, you will automatically be entered into your junior year at the School of Engineering at a 4-year university.
Oh, that's great.
So it's a pathway that's been created. That's one example. Another one is that we actually have a relationship with some of the after-school programs that if you're taking, for example, force and motion in school for 1 hour, because that's all you get, for the entire week that that's being taught in school, the youth development organizations, Boys and Girls Club, Girls Inc., 4-H, and the YMCA, all do experiential hands-on activities around force and motion. So what they learn in school gets reinforced in real world about what it means and how does it apply to real world. We have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples like that.
Right. Well, this is so great. I'm so pleased you took some time to talk to us, and congratulations. This is really, it's a really interesting initiative, and it's great to see it taking off, and I look forward to seeing you spread across the country.
Thank you. Where we finally are opening up in Canada.
Oh, in Canada.
We're in Vancouver.
Great.
And the Science Center is running it, and we're looking at doing it in Toronto. So glad to keep you informed, and also to the extent that we can help you in providing articles, materials, ongoing information for storylines for you as you continue to work through this wonderful, periodical that you have. We would love to be contributing to the storylines.
Great. Thank you so much, Gerald.
Thank you. Appreciate it much.
Thanks.
Okay.